A little more than a week after Hurricane Helene ravaged the southeast, we're tracking another powerful hurricane in the Gulf of Mexico this morning. Take a look at your screen right now. This is a live radar picture of Hurricane Milton. It's expected to hit Florida on Wednesday as a major hurricane. And with cleanup just beginning after Helene, there's growing concern over the impact of this next storm. Chris joins us now to break down the latest on Hurricane Milton and what impacts we could see here in the Carolinas in this morning's Weather IQ. Chris?
Thanks a lot as always, Sarah. Larry said it right at the top of the show. This will not affect us here in North Carolina. South Carolina along the shoreline closer to Charleston could have a minor storm surge. So Hurricane Milton, official update 100 miles per hour. That means that we're on our way towards Category 3 strength. When it hits Category 3, we're calling it a major hurricane. So the intensity forecast in detail shows it up to 145 miles per hour. I wouldn't be surprised because as the favorable conditions that this could challenge Category 5 strength. Regardless, even if it's a strong Category 4, the amount of water that these storms lift up, even if it weakens before shoreline, that storm surge is going to be a big issue as it crashes into the Florida Gulf Coast, where Tampa's right in between the cone of uncertainty. Things to strengthen a hurricane. Anytime it's at 80 degrees, yeah, that's going to be prime time fuel. When it's around 85, that's jet fuel. What weakens a tropical cyclone? Well, it's wind shear, landfall, and dry air. Dry air, not an issue. All that dry air is off towards the north. That means Milton is on its own entity. As far as the wind shear goes, it's not really affected. It almost skirts underneath the heavier wind shear that would start to break things up. And it's not until really it starts reaching landfall. That's the reason why it weakens a little bit before it hits the coast, that it's going to cut into the storm. So wind shear is the change of speed and direction with height. That kind of breaks up that tight development that it typically has. Here's the reason why it's moving so fast. It's the polar jet stream. Right now, it's not affecting it, but this is one of the rarer paths where people around Tampa are calling this the worst storm they could see in 100 years. The reason why, you don't see these type of paths from west to east. The last time we had this, 1888. So that puts it in perspective about how rare this is. That means it's going to maximize the storm surge for areas along Tampa Bay who are already affected by Helene, which was about 100 miles offshore. So once it gets caught up in this polar jet stream, it's going to start to cruise. Once it starts to cruise, that means it's going to fly across the state of Florida. That will limit the rainfall. However, the amount of rain that they see beforehand is going to be a big issue. As for South Carolina, the impacts right now showing around that 1 to 3 foot range, but the Florida Gulf Coast, some areas could see up to 12 feet.
On behalf of all the people in North Carolina, Florida as well, and probably Georgia, South Carolina, remind us, when is hurricane season over?
November 30th.